I am feeling a little bit rejuvenated because I learned so many new inventions that we have. Ericsson comes with a 140 years legacy. It has so many things that it is doing in pockets. So when we start thinking of globalizing certain things, we kind of unearth some of the elements which we are never aware of. So therefore, saying that we are talking about this is a learning from my side. So this is what I wanted to share with all of you. And that was a part of challenge of your peer session that was supposed to be happening after this. But this actually was something that I wanted to present and take your view on. So we started our journey of skill at Ericsson in 2022. And what made us take that journey was basically we were struggling to understand our skill requirements for upskilling and reskilling in order to make our workforce better utilized. To do that, we were left with no other option than to alter our job architecture, which was our first and foremost step that we thought will lead us to in the right direction. But what happened was that it went haywire, kind of. So as a learning, what I would like to say now is, let me first set the agenda, basically. So here's our roadmap, which I will take you through. Of course, we will talk about what we mean when we say skills-based pay. Why skills-based pay versus traditional pay? Then we will also talk about prerequisites of skills-based pay and what are the challenges for adopting skills-based pay, practical guide that I have come up with, which probably we will talk about in our challenge, your peer session. And finally, I will say some good words which you can take away with you and make sure that we do not do the same things that we have done at Ericsson, which has caused us so much trouble. Good? So let me first explain, because it is important that there are various ways of using skills in our compensation methodology. So today, let's take an example of a well-established role, which is called data scientist, which is more prominent these days. It's kind of, as you know, that this role typically has 6 distinct levels of career cycle, life cycle. So when you do the traditional pay of traditional salary benchmarking, what we generally end up with is we decide min, median, max, or like quartile positioning or something like that. But when we talk about skills-based pay, what we really mean is that the job roles that can be identified, can be measured using skills up to 60% of their extent. Those job roles can be identified and used with this kind of skill-based pay. So data scientist job role has a number of skills that are connected to it. And you can see that if you are able to connect your people with these skills at different levels, then you will be able to do right salary benchmarking. This is our vision that we want to go ahead with. However, we, of course, came across certain roadblocks, which were like, okay, we can't do it in one go for the entire organization. Why? Because this model works well where the skills can be measurable, the job roles that are using those skills are tangible and clearly defined. So that was the main problem that we are now struggling to deal with. Then, of course, I don't have to actually, this was something that I thought I will talk, but I've seen so many sessions since morning, and I know that you all are fully aware of what the benefits of skills-based pay over traditional-based pay is, but I still take you through because I would probably not spend too much time on this. But as you know that today, top talent are increasingly looking for fair-based pay. They need, growth linked to their salaries. They need clear answers. Why are they not being paid this? Why are they paid like that? So skills-based pay allows organizations to reward individuals based on their skill sets. This is why we say that it helps us attract and retain the right talent. Whereas on the other hand side, if you talk about the traditional pay, they are very much dependent on the promotional requirements. When you have some position vacant, then only you get your promotions or some hierarchical, situational things. Then you have, of course, now this is very well-known topic, pay transparency. The more objective your your base pay is, your salary benchmarks is, the more justifiable it will be. You will be able to defend it more easily. The problems that we were talking about, unjustified, unexplainable gaps or something like that, will only happens when there are subjectivity connected to that. If you don't have that, then you will probably not have that. Then you have building a continuous learning culture. This is what is an end result, which we've thought that this will be something that, of course, it will, inculcate a tendency in our employees to move ahead and make sure that they put efforts to learn, enable themselves with more capabilities and everything. Then you have keep pace with rapid technology, which is like, again, skills change so quickly. You need to keep yourself updated. And that is what we thought will be like, an advantage of a skill-based pay. Then enable agility in business strategy, which is again something which is like the more agile, the more the more you are able to distinguish your employees with the skills, the more you will be able to replace them, reuse them, reallocate them, and use them for the best. And then finally, gain a competitive edge, which is again something which, of course, if the top talent is looking for these kind of things, then of course this will be something that will help you gain advantage. So this, I don't think this is like, I'm just telling you, I'm showing like, talking the same things that you all already know. So now here is the thing. What are the prerequisites that you think is required for a skills-based pay? So I would just, before we deep dive into this, let's understand that in real sense, if we really want to have this skills-based pay, we clearly need a clear skills framework, which everybody know that if that is not there, we will not be able to incorporate a skills-based pay. Then we also need, skills assessment methodology. It can't be just dependent on line manager assessing a tick in the box all the time. It can't be just that the individual himself is assessing himself and saying, I'm good at this, and then the manager ticks in the box. That's not going to help in the long term. Then you also need competency mapping, which means that the company needs to identify critical skills that need to be then connected to the job roles, which will then be mapped to employees. And that is also needed, and we need good structure of doing that. Then you need a change management plan, which is another important aspect, because, I have seen this happen, that it's a reluctance from the middle layer managements a lot more than the senior level management. The middle layer managements are not comfortable doing this so openly. They're not comfortable doing it. So we have seen that come back multiple times, that we have started with, a lot of efforts to gain the senior management buy-in and everything, but it has not actually resulted in the way we would have wanted. And then finally, as you all know, there are some countries which are very, very particular about these things, which are like Germany, you can say Netherlands, you have Sweden also a part of it, which is like not very comfortable implementing these kind of skill-based pay because that actually has a direct impact on the employee's compensation. So these are the prerequisites that you have to have there in place before we can even start thinking about skills-based pay to be implemented on the ground level. This is based on my experience that I have learned, and of course there are other things also probably, which we will discuss in the challenge your peers to understand more so that I can get some more insights around it. Then we move to the next, and then we move to the next, which is like, what do you see as the challenges for adopting skills-based pay? What are the main challenges that you feel that, okay, now that if we have all of this, what can be the next? What are the challenges? So the first challenge that we feel is securing leadership buy-in. Making sure return on investment, because it is so long-term, the results will, you will not be able to see the results immediately. The leadership buy-in comes with a timestamp. They need results quick, which is not really possible. So securing leadership buy-in is very, very, challenging. Then we have identifying high-impact roles, measurable roles, because again, this is something that we talked about. I talked about in the previous discussion as well. That you need to find the jobs that can be measurable, tangible, and also, really on the ground needed for the company. So you need to identify those high-impact roles that will be used as your, front runners for you to, actually prove your point right now in this step at that stage when we were talking about this. And then selecting the most relevant skills per role. Now, if you go out in the market, when you go out and ask, for example, in the Mercers, in the Aons, in the Willis Towers Watson, and ask them to give you skills-based data, they will specifically talk about, okay, you want this particular skill in this kind of role. You need to identify internally in your, in your job architecture which top skills are required in each job role, which is another biggest concern that it's very difficult task because all job roles are, sometimes they are all connected with so many other job skills that are required. And then, why is it not moving? Building a skills-enabled job architecture. This is again, so once you have the job architecture, you've identified those job roles, then you have to have that job architecture well established in the system. Then you have to create an ongoing skills taxonomy governance system. Again, this is the other part of the same problem that we're talking about, that skills are getting so fast changed. They are so, I would say dynamic, that you are not able to keep track of it. So therefore, you need a governance system to keep it updated and keep it running and have a system in place to do that on a regular basis. And finally, you need the reliable market data, salary data, basically, from the companies like Mercer, Willis, and all those. So I don't see that kind of robustness in the market data. So that gives me like a little bit of an, these are the lists that I think are the challenges that we have in adopting the skills-based way, even if we have those prerequisites established in the organization. So we at Ericsson have done the prerequisites a little bit in a good or bad shape. They are all up and running, but we have challenges with these kind of things, because we are still not able to connect skills to the base pay or salary structures. Then we have, just based on this, based on my experience, I come back with like, okay, what can be a practical roadmap for it in order to not jeopardize the whole situation that we have come up with. So for me, I think engage with leaders. And when I say engage with leaders, I don't only mean the top layer. You need to go down into those organizations where these skills are predominantly used, where you can find those measurable, tangible skills, which are very much connected to the organization's strategy. So if you do that, you probably have less chance of failing. Then you move to the next one, which is like secure leadership commitment. Commitment, by what I mean by commitment is that there has to be some time-bound commitment from the leadership. Because sometimes what happens is, although they have given their sign-off, they are waiting for results, and if it is open-ended, you don't end up with any positive feedback. So that is why it is important that you have a very specific time-bound plan for implementation. Then you have engage with HR. HR business partners are your ambassadors. You cannot run the mill without them. Having them convinced with what this will result in is very much important. If they are not on our side, it's not possible to implement it on the ground. So having them engaged is very much important. Then leverage marketing. There are multiple tools available today in the market which can help you establish this architecture now. There are companies that are offering at a small scale level, at a global scale level. There are many. We have received a lot of help. Eightfold. We have so many other companies that were very much interested in helping us establish the skills taxonomy and stuff like that. Maybe not a long-term association, but initial 1 or 2 years to understand how this can be implemented in your own company is very much important. And then finally, of course, pilot and scale. My suggestion is always that we should not think to go live full bang on. It never works. It didn't work in our world. We have been trying for this for a long time. We have not been able to successfully implement it. So that's basis my learnings that I'm trying to share all of this with you so that you can also see what benefit it can come up with. Now, key takeaways, these are my last step. I'm completing my deck. I'm compensating for the 10 minutes that you lost. Then I would say key takeaways and conclusion. I would say that you should find sweet spots in your organization, which I say identify those units where skills is kind of a steer for you. Very much connected to the company's growth and success. If you find those and implement this kind of a structure for those first, you will probably have better chances of succeeding. Then you have to have buy-in not only from, as I said, this is something that I've been repeatedly saying, that you need to engage with leaders on the ground level, till the last level, nth level, to have them on board with this thing that you are trying to achieve in the end. And then one size doesn't fit all. That's another takeaway that I would say. You will have to see that in some organizations, you'll have to treat it differently. In some organizations, you'll have to treat it differently. And that is what we are also doing in our networks area. We are doing it in a different way. In our development area, we are doing it in a different way. In our customer support area, we are doing it in a different way. Although the skills are common, although the roles are common, but we are implementing things in a different way. And then finally, the most important thing is try not to overcommit, because sometimes that gives you a backfire. So for me, this was my learnings from what we have done. And I would like to talk more about it and take your views. And of course, I'm open to take any questions at this point if you have any. And then we can talk about it in the Challenge Your Peer session.
Right, first give a hand.